Alright, cool. What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to write a basic sneaker bot. So to get started, let's talk about what a sneaker bot is. But before I begin, I'm just going to mention that I'm not going to be taking questions during the stream. But at the end, I'm going to open it up to questions. So if you see something that you're confused about or anything like that, just make a note of it and then you can ask it at the end. Alright, so a sneaker bot or any other kind of bot is simply just a program that interacts with a website. So when you open a browser and you type a search term into Google, you're interacting with Google, with a website, using a visual interface, which is your browser, be it Google Chrome or Safari or Firefox or whatever. What you're doing is you're making requests to this website. You're basically telling the server that you want something and you're asking for it in return. Um, so the reason sneaker bots get more shoes than someone manually clicking a website, well, there are a few reasons. One, you can send hundreds of requests at a time from a bunch of different locations, and someone manually sending one request from one location is not going to have much of a chance against that. And two, browsers load a bunch of extra things like images and style sheets and JavaScript files and anything like that. And this takes time. And that's why it takes so long for a web page to load sometimes. Um, so without loading these things, you can get to your result much faster. So these requests are the basis of all website interaction. There are two main types of requests. The first one is the most common, is called a GET request, and this is simply when you visit a web page and you want to retrieve information. And then there's a POST request, and that's the second most common, and that's when like you fill out a form and you press the submit button and you're telling the server something, you're giving it information. So sneaker bots utilize both of these. So in order to get information about a project, like the sizes in stock and the product ID, you'll need to make a GET request on the product page. So that's how you get the information. And then once you have that information, you'll want to make multiple POST requests to tell the server, like, this is the product that I want to add to cart in this size, or this is my address and this is my credit card information. So to start, let's go over how our sneaker bot's going to work for a basic website without doing any code. So for the purpose of this stream, we're just going to be using a website called Jimmy Jazz, which I'm sure most of you know. Um, so, all right, so the very first thing you do, sometimes before you even open the website, is you want to open Chrome Developer Tools. So each operating system has a different way to do this, but the easiest way is just to right-click and press inspect, and you'll get this thing on the right that has all these tools. And then with this open, you're going to want to click on the Network tab, and this is where all your requests are going to show up. So when we open our website, you're going to see a bunch of things pop up in here. All right. So every time a new page is opened, the network tab is going to refresh. So you're going to want to click this little checkbox up here that says preserve log. And now, like if I click on a new page, all of this stuff is going to stay here. If I don't have preserve log and I click on a new page, all of it disappears and you get new information. So you're going to want to press preserve log, and then you're going to be able to see every single request from the time that you open the website until the time you check out. And you can clear it occasionally by clicking this clear button if it starts to get too cluttered. So let's find some shoe that we want to test our bot with. Let's take this one. So this is our product page. And if we look at the very top, we're going to see one of these requests is blue. So if we click on this blue request, that is usually the main request. Oh, that's the wrong request. Let's do it again. Here, so this is the main request, right? That's the one in blue up here. So all it is you see this request URL, which is the same URL as the one in your browser, and it's a GET request. So the first thing you're going to want to do is clear everything out and click a size and add that size to cart. And we want to see what the request is to add the size to cart, because the first thing we need to do when we're buying a sneaker is we need to add it to our cart. So this is the request that adds it to cart, and this is the URL for it right here. And so you see this cart add, and then you see some number, and then you see a 1. So the number between the add and the 1 is probably some sort of like product ID or variant ID or something like that. And in this case, since there's only one, we can safely assume that it's the variant ID, because it wouldn't make sense to just have a product ID, because we need to also tell it what size we're adding. And then we can also assume that the 1 is just the quantity. So to test that out, let's pick a different size, like size 10. So now we have a different number right here. And we're going to pick a different number, so let's do like 3 or something. And we're going to put it into our browser. And then we're going to press enter. And you get a bunch of weird text, but it says success 1 right here. So if we look back in our cart, now we have 4 things in our cart. So we have 3 of this size 10 that we've just added. So let's go back to this page though. If you notice this text, it's a bunch of random text, but this is the response text for the add to cart request. So if we make that request one more time and we press on response, this is the same thing that we're seeing right here. So the most important part of this response text is the very beginning, where it says success 1. So generally in coding and computer science and whatnot, 1 is like true or yes or something like that, and 0 is like false or no or something like that. So in this case, when it's a success 1, we know that it was successful, and that's going to be useful later on. So now that we have it in our cart, the next thing to do is we want to check out. So we're going to go to our shopping cart. I'm just going to remove a bunch of the extra stuff.